Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk. Back again with you guys for another show to discuss and break down transfer deadline day. I mean, we've done something. We've signed a player on transfer deadline day in January. I mean, at the start of the window. Can't hear me again. Why does it do that? Every time I start, the blooming mic decides not to work. Hopefully you can hear me now. Please let me know in the chat if you can. Why I was saying basically before I cut off is that Arsenal have had a very, very good window. I think that if you said at the start of the season that we were going to sign no one, I wouldn't have been surprised. But we have now. We have signed someone, and not just someone, but two people this window. And we signed someone on transfer deadline day. We kind of knew it was going to happen for the last couple of days, but it's been announced, and Cedric Suarez is now an Arsenal player. And I think this is a really decent deal. I mean, a fee of just over £1 million for a player is good. I mean, the amount of people that think we've paid Southampton £5 million is quite funny. No, that takes into consideration wages. It's £5 million in total, including his wages, without just over £1 million going to Southampton. And from Southampton fans that I've spoken to, they don't think this deal makes any sense for them. Any sense, because Valerie, who's basically the guy that's there, hasn't really progressed that much since being there, and they could have really done with keeping hold of him for another 6 months and just losing him, because a million is not great for them. It doesn't really give them too much financially. Yes, you could say that $5 million, you don't have to do the pay them the wages, but at the same time, we don't have to worry about that. And I don't really get the negativity of making a sign like this. Now, I know that maybe contradicts what I'd said on the show the other day when we did the tactical breakdown, which you haven't checked out, and you want to learn a little bit more about Cedric Suarez, you can. I was very critical of Cedric because of his passing quality and his attacking quality. But considering how cheap this deal is, and it's just another body, like a lot of people pointed out to me, I am okay with that. Let's get some of your thoughts in the live chat now. Jack Perry says you sounded very engaged in whatever you were talking about anyway. I don't know why it cuts out. The sound for some reason decides to cut out at the start sometimes. Maybe it's you spend 150 quid on a microphone and it just packs up in the first 10 seconds of every video. Great. Thank you ever so much. Owen said muted rehearsal. Yes, it was. I was just rehearsing to myself. I accidentally clicked live. That's what I did. Coaster Chow says, at least you have signed more than one player. Cough, cough. Bruno Fernandes. Yeah, Bruno. The thing about that Bruno Fernandes thing, and we will talk about that, is that it's a very, very good deal. And if you listen to me on the Gooners pod with Mike and Andy the other day, if you haven't checked that out, please do go check out their show. They basically took the mick because I really, really like Bruno Fernandes. I have Bruno Fernandes on the back of my Sporting Lisbon shirt from when I went and watched Sporting Lisbon in, no surprise, Lisbon. And he scored a fantastic free kick. I can't remember the team that they're playing against, but it was a local-ish derby, but not against Benfica. And I wouldn't say I'm gutted, because the reason I'm not gutted about Bruno going to Man United is because of all the teams, all the top clubs that he could have gone to, maybe excluding Spurs. Actually, no, I'm even including Spurs. All of the top teams that he could have gone to, Man United are the ones that will mess him up. Man United are the ones where I don't know if he'll be that great for them. I don't know if he will just flutter and not be played correctly. And there'll be a lot of pressure on him to deliver. And I also love the fact that George Mendes has absolutely done one over on Man United, and is now basically, if you listen to the Athletics Transfer Daily podcast, Mr. Ornstein, the Oracle, was basically explaining that Man United didn't want to be perceived as a club that could be taken advantage of. They didn't want to be perceived as a club that would just pay whatever it took to get the player, because they can't. Financially, they can't do that as much as they used to because of FFP, because of the debt that they're under and other things and other factors. But the funny thing is that they have been completely done over by George Mendes pretending that Barcelona were in for Bruno Fernandes, a position that they don't necessarily. They do need that position, but it's not. He wasn't a player that was ever really in their minds. When they're considering that they need to go out and they need to sign a striker, they need to sign a wide player, probably Neymar in the summer, that Bruno Fernandes was never going to go Barca. And just by George Mendes saying that he was going to go on and basically leaked a fake link, United panicked and they went against their principles and they overpaid. And that is really, really funny. That's pretty much it, really. So that's my thoughts on it. Bulgarian Gunnar says, yeah, another big name going to United. We all know how this will end. Ashwin, one of our members, says, we did proper business. We needed defenders, and we got just that. Let's refocus on what we did. Before we go on to talk about Marie and, what's his face? Cedric, the guy that I literally just talked about a second ago. Let's talk about Aubameyang, because he wanted to go in January. In fact, he wanted to go so much that he decided to get on his phone and ring Barcelona and people that are contacts at that club and ask what it would be like. He has 6 months, he has a year left on his deal. He thought that it might be possible, and he rang Barcelona. That is what happened. And basically, Arsenal were never going to let him go, is the fact of the matter. And I don't think that Barcelona would have paid the amount of money that Arsenal would have demanded had they decided to think that, yes, he would have let him go. So there's some info for you. If you want to know, like, source-wise, this is out there. If you listen to the Graham Hunter's big interview, Graham Hunter is an extremely well-regarded journalist and with a wild variety of contacts. And you listen to the big interview show, he basically has a very good friend who was the person called by Aubameyang. And Graham Hunter is not the type to just throw around fake information. So very, very well sourced. Aubameyang rang up Barcelona and asked about it and was up for it and would have gone. He wanted to go. He wanted to go to Barcelona, but it's not going to, and it didn't happen. But it basically means that he will be going in the summer, because we know that Raul does not want players, and Ozil's probably a bit of an exception to the rule here, that he doesn't want players going into the final year of their contract and playing. He wants to either cash in or he wants them to sign a new deal. So you can pretty much guarantee that Auba is going to be gone this summer, which doesn't hurt me as much as I thought it was. I don't know if I should be more affected by that, but the guy's over 30. We can probably get a good 30 to 40 million for a guy that's coming to the end of his deal. He's got a year left. If we can cash in and get another top quality striker in, or, to be honest, you know what's funny is that we have Laka and Auba, and it creates a problem. Like, having those two is problematic because you probably have to play both of them, and playing both of them means playing one of them out of position, which means you don't get anywhere near as much quality from them. And now you also got Martinelli, which Jack Perry highlights there, coming through, playing on that left-hand side, which he could make his own, that Aubameyang could be absolute. And if we go out and I mean, can you imagine if we sold Laka and Auba in the same window? It'd be insane. I still think that Laka has got a lot to give this club, but I am pretty sure that we will not see Aubameyang at Arsenal next season, unless he signs a new deal. But if we let him go into his final year, then we're mental. We are absolutely insane, because that is a hell of a lot of money that we could be losing out on. But there you go. There's some interesting news for you that I can 99.9% guarantee, because I trust Graham Hunter, that Auba rang up Barcelona this January, and that was that. So, yeah, the Saints says swap for Griezmann. No, because it's likely that either Ousmane Dembele or Griezmann are going to go to PSG in a cash plus money deal for Neymar. That's the other thing that's going to happen this summer. Neymar, it will most likely end up at Barcelona. So there you go. So if you see Aubameyang tweeting out saying it's all fake news and all that, I genuinely think that there's a little bit to this, if not just a little bit, but a hell of a lot to that. So there you go. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about Aubameyang. Ringing up Barcelona. Really, really intriguing. As I said, you can go check it. I don't know if it's accessible to everyone because Graham Hunter has his own sort of membership platform thing with the socios, so you can go and check that out. Maybe we can get Graham on here. That'd be pretty cool, and I can ask him about it. So that'd be quite interesting. Anyway, two guys that we signed. A little bit more on Cedric Suarez. Obviously, 6-month deal. We could probably sign him. Probably will sign him on a 3 to 4 year deal in the summer for free. Decent bit of business. Just another body. Good backup to Bellerin. Good competition. And when you've got FA Cup games, and it looks like we could be going through to at least the quarterfinal with Pompey in the next round. Very, very winnable game in the 5th round or 6th round or whatever round it is. And you need numbers, because with the Europa League coming up as well, the game against Olympiacos, which, by the way, has been made slightly easier. Thank you to Wolverhampton Wanderers for signing Podence for Olympiacos, who was arguably their best player, maybe with El Arabi. So Podence, yeah, interesting. And I'm happy that's happened because it's made the Olympiacos tie much, much easier. But I'm very, very happy that we've managed to get another body in that can give us these extra minutes on the pitch, that Maitland-Niles won't have to be as relied upon. And a lot of people have been citing the fact that Ainsley Maitland-Niles will now be able to be moved into the centre, which is really good. Let's have a look at some more of your comments. Arsenal Forever says, what? Albert gone? WTF? He's not gone, no, but he was certainly looking around to be leaving, ringing up Barcelona. Taib says, Tom, do you rate Kemba? Who? Oh, I don't even know who that is. Ugang says, let's all go out for Timo. I assume you mean Timo Werner. I don't know if that's ever going to be feasible, considering that Liverpool look like they're sniffing around that very, very heavily. I think they look upon him as the guy that would upgrade upon Roberto Firmino. And if you're going to upgrade upon Mane, Firmino, and Salah, I mean, you're going to be buying a hell of a player. And Timo Werner is that guy. So if they do get that over the line, a front line of Mane, Werner, and Salah, my God, that's even scarier than it is now. Mem says, in Arteta's press conference, he stated that he does not see Ainsley Maitland-Niles as a fullback. And with this move of Cedric, do you think he will push Mainsley into the midfield over Ceballos? Again, they're both, I know what you're saying, they're both effectively number 8s in the midfield. I think Ceballos plays slightly different. He's more attacking. Maitland-Niles is definitely more of a box-to-box type midfielder if he was pushed into the middle. They are going to be in direct competition, even though they're different players. I think this and next season is make or break for Mainsley. If he doesn't get enough minutes next season in a midfield position, when Arsenal will have solid right back cover in Cedric and with Bellerin pushing forward, arguably with the Ion taking over the captaincy after Aubameyang most likely leaves this summer, then you've got an issue where I think Ainsley Maitland-Niles will have his final season next year if he doesn't get enough minutes on the pitch. And when you've got the likes of Guendouzi there, Torreira, with Xhaka, all looking like they're going to remain, and with us also being linked to wanting to bring in another centre midfielder. We were linked with Emre Can for a bit, which I didn't really understand. I wouldn't have taken him for 30 million, no chance. So I'm a little bit. I think there's a ticking time clock on. There's a ticking clock. Didn't need the word for time. Don't even know why I bothered. There's a ticking clock on Ainsley Maitland-Niles' Arsenal career, which is a shame because I like him. I just don't see how he presses into that midfield. I really, really don't. Here we go. Jamaican Gunner says, don't you think we need another midfielder this window? Well, it's a weird question because, yes, I think we need one, but the midfielder that we need is just not in our price bracket. It's just not going to be feasible this window. We don't need another midfield body like we needed another fullback body, because we've got plenty of midfielders. They're just not really good enough to push us forward to the next level. Besides maybe Torreira, we need, if Ozil goes in the summer, which is feasible, DC United are sniffing around and he's coming to the end of his time, but he always maintained his status in his contract. There's that. We would need to go out and sign a top quality midfielder to replace that number 10 position. There's plenty of players out there that I would go for. But we also need to sign, in my opinion, another centre midfielder that upgrades on Granit Xhaka. I like Granit Xhaka a lot. People know this, but we need to upgrade where we can. And for me, that is going to require a lot of money. So whilst Jamaican Gunner, I see what you're saying. I just don't think Arsenal are in the financial position this window to bring in the quality necessary that would be feasible. It just wouldn't be possible, because you've got Torreira, you've got Willock, Guendouzi, you've got Xhaka, we've got Ceballos, we've got Ozil, Maitland-Niles is now pushing for that midfield berth as well. Smith Rowe will be coming back next season. There's no point bringing in just a body. For me, it's just not what we would go for. And Mohammed says bringing in Ndidi or Samara. I hope I pronounced that right. Samir. Obviously, Lille midfielder has been linked very heavily with Chelsea. I don't think he will be the one that we get whatsoever. Rashid says let's sell Auba and Laka and buy Raul Jimenez as a possible replacement for them. Very interesting. Not sure if he's the one that I go for. I think possibly if you were to sell Laka and Auba, you would have to go out big and go out and buy a proper top-class number 9. Not saying that I don't think Jimenez is top class. I think someone bigger, someone bigger and better than Jimenez even. So that's just my thought on that. Owen says, I like the fact that we've signed 2 players that don't excite, gives them time to settle and grow without too much expectation. Yeah, I like that as well. Although I would say that Pablo Mari, that we'll talk about in a second, has got a little bit more pressure on him necessarily because of the situation centre back, because of what we're thought of defensively, and he's expected to come in and play probably next to David Luiz. That he's going to be, it's a bit of pressure on him a bit to perform. So that's going to be intriguing to see how he develops, definitely. Kamal says Partey, quality CDM. Yes. And I mean, to be fair, sometimes not even CDM, sometimes box to box with Thomas Partey can play in that centre midfield role rather than centre defensive midfield role. So he's versatile. I love him. I think he's great. The way I said that was so romantic. I love him. I think he's brilliant. He would cost a hell of a lot of money. There were supposed rumours that we were in for him in the summer. He wanted to join. We just didn't put the money on the table because we just didn't have the funds at that time. So there's clearly a link there that's strong. So I'm interested to know how that would play out come the summer. Avinash says, I'm happy with the signings this window. It means we can go big in the summer and not rush. I think that we know that the league is a write-off. There's a very, very, very outside chance that we go for top 4. But I think we know that in terms of top 4, that is a ship that has probably sailed. We need to focus on the Europa League. FA Cup run looks really, really promising as well, which is nice. We've got great history in that competition and would love. Imagine Arteta winning a cup in his first season. Unreal that would be. So yeah, I completely get what you're saying there, Avinash. I think that we've got to focus on this summer in rebuilding and getting out a lot of deadwood and changing around the players. So yeah, 100%. Aaron Letchard, one of our members, said, would you take Phillips from Leeds as a midfielder? Yeah, Phillips is really impressed. Looked decent. I say looked decent. He looked okay against us. If that was Phillips, I believe. I think is that blonde hair? I think he's the blonde guy. Might be so wrong, but I know who you're talking about. Defensive midfielder for Leeds. Interesting. Would you go from someone for the Championship, or would you rather spend money on a proper, exciting player from outside of Europe or from the Premier League, a Decore and Ndidi? I think a lot of people would prefer that. I think if we went for Phillips, I think it would just sort of, I don't think it would bring the same sort of buzz that a Ndidi or a Decore or a Samara would also bring. Richard Cannon says, Tom, I'm going to need a list of Kia's clients. Kia's? Oh, I know who you mean, the agent. In order to, I was like, Kia? That's a car. I know exactly what you're on about. Is it Jura? I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but you know exactly what I mean. In order to see the possibility of players that we'll bring in the summer. Not only that, but George Mendes as well has been massively linked. He's Cedric's one of his clients. So there's, I mean, with the whole, what's his, Raul Sanielli being the connections that he has, we're just being linked with all these players that are either from Kia or from Zahavi and also from George Mendes. So really, really interesting. Taib says, Tom, who do you think will win the Championship? I think it's going to be Leeds because with that Jean-Kevin Augustin signing, that's a fantastic backup. Not even backup, he comes in straight over Patrick Bamford, surely. So 100% I think Leeds are going to go for there. Rodney says, what do you see the club doing with all the centre-backs we have now? Really good question. We always said about centre-backs. At the moment, we have David Luiz, Socrates, Rob Holding, Callum Chambers, Pablo Mari, Mavropanos, Zach Medley. Who else do we have? Mustafi. We have an abundance of centre-backs at this club. I've probably forgotten one. And we will need, and obviously we've got Saliba coming in the summer, big one as well. So there's a lot of centre-backs there. Arguably, a club does not need 8 centre-backs, and we want to bring in another one that's top class in the summer to probably pair with Saliba, unless Pablo Mari performs to such a high level that we feel that we don't need to. But it's really odd because we talk about how we desperately need a centre-back, but we've got so many. And I know what people say, they're just not good enough. And we will, this summer is going to be a big job getting out the players that we don't need, like Mustafi. Arguably, I mean, Socrates isn't going to go for anything, and I quite like how much he's improved this season. What I would have said, Callum Chambers, but he's not going to be sold because he's got a huge injury. Mavropanos, for me, probably move on. Probably take the money that we could get for him at the moment. I don't think he's done what we thought we would. Have to see how he does at Nuremberg, but I just don't think that's it. I think I was about to say I'd cash in on Zach Medley. Would you cash in on Zach Medley if he went for a few million quid? Is it worth it? I just think I think we should have seen more of him by now. Or is that harsh? I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure about Medley. It's a tough one. It's a real tough one. That maybe it's one for its own dedicated video. Interesting to talk about our centre backs. Rashid says, I'm really excited. Saliba is coming in the summer. He will pair with Marie if he justify himself. 100% agree with you. Jeffrey says, I would not sell Chambers. Easily the best centre-back on the team based on his form this season. Very true. Would not have been saying that last summer. Very interesting. Ugank says, what do you think about our summer transfer budget? I think it'll be fairly similar to last summer. I think we'll spend a fair chunk of money. Whether that's structured deals, I don't know. There'll be money made available, I'm sure. If we can qualify for the Europa League or the Champions League again, that will definitely boost us even more. So fingers crossed we can do something in Europe this season. Qualifying for the Champions League would be unreal. So imagine saying as an Arsenal fan that qualifying for the Champions League would be unreal. Imagine being that fan now. Aaron says, if Medley's not around the first team yet, we should probably cash in. Pratap says, Upamecano and Ziyech would be a priority in the summer. Definitely think those two would improve the team for sure. Omar says, do you think Arteta will get rid of half of these dead players in the summer? I think he will. I think the club, I don't think necessarily Arteta will, but the club will definitely do it. Edu and Raul definitely going to be busy guys. Hasfami as well, getting rid of these players. Abdullah says, are we going to improve our transfers? I think that will improve on who we've signed so far. I think you'll see us definitely being a little bit smarter with Arteta at the helm. I hope that's true. We're going to have to wait and see whether it is or not. Wilson says, I think it has been a decent transfer window for Arsenal. I agree with you, mate. Owen says, Zaha will come in this summer. Really? Do you think that? If Zaha comes in, what does that mean for Martinelli? Interesting stuff, because if we sign Zaha, you have to say he plays on the left. What does that mean for Martinelli? A lot of people would turn around and say maybe we should play Martinelli through the centre. I still think he's best on the wide position. Some people think he's best centrally. Not sure. Gundit News says, hope you had a fantastic day, Tom. It was not bad. It's a Friday. I'm happy with a Friday. Going to have a nice Chinese for dinner. And hope it's not full of the coronavirus. Oh, God, it's so scary, that stuff. Let's not talk about that. Let's really, I don't want to talk about that. As a geography teacher, I'm just gradually watching it spread across the world. Don't want to talk about it. Really don't. Richard Cannon says, no, Omar. We have a good right back in Hector who needs competition. We brought in a Portuguese international with Premier League experience with no obligation to buy and everything to prove. Eyes on the summer. Zaha says, Abdullah says Zaha shouldn't come. I wouldn't want him either. 100 would not want him. Parfit says, have a bottle of Corona. Apparently alcohol helps get rid of it. Oh no, that's horrific, Ben. That is horrific. Ugan says, nice content throughout the January window. Thanks. No problem. I hope you've enjoyed all of the tactical breakdowns. Those that are watching or are new, and if you want to go check out some of the tactical breakdowns, we have done so many interviews, so many interviews this January window with loads of Brazilian experts. We chatted to Dan Hargraves, who was a Southampton fan. We've talked about Thomas Lemar. We've talked about Upamecano. We talked about him with James Benge, who was our interview for the members this month. And also, tomorrow marks the day which is the 1st of February, which means that our members, our very fantastic members, will very soon, at some point throughout the month, be getting some exclusive content. Can't wait to get that out to you guys, including the article, a couple of interviews with the podcast guys, and of course with a journalist and expert. possibly even an ex-pro. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But I'm really, really looking forward to that. Keep it up, Tom, says Kamal. Aaron says, I still think we need a imposing midfielder to get us through to the summer. I just don't think it's going to happen, Aaron. I'm really sorry. I just don't think that we've got the funds to get in the player that we would need to get in. Mohammed says, I watch a lot of La Liga. Arsenal should get Anguissa from Villarreal, but on loan. But he's on loan from Fulham. One of the best CDMs right now. He plays alongside Santi Cazorla. He's big, physical, good on the ball as well. But even with Anguissa, it didn't stop him from losing against my boys Espanyol, did it? Oh, what a shame. Praying that Espanyol somehow stay up this season. They signed Raul de Thomas, RDT. And hopefully that means they can stay up. Fingers crossed, but just don't know. Wilson says it is a difficult time to buy top players in January because they are content in their clubs, and the summer is a better time to sign some players, surely. 100% agree with you. Omar says, we'll miss the tactical rid. Not going to lie. You know, there was part of me, Omar, that thought, because people know from watching the channel for a long, long time that I love European football. I write about European football. I've joined up with the guys that get Spanish football news now. And there's an article coming out very soon on Ferran Torres at the early start of next month. That maybe there's I keep dabbling with the idea of doing a second channel dedicated to tactical breakdowns on players across Europe, not necessarily just to do with Arsenal, but with loads of young and up-and-coming talent and players linked with all different clubs. So it's something I've thought about, but time-wise, it would take a lot of my time, and I feel like the missus is painful enough now, knowing that I do this podcast and this channel. So 2 channels maybe we'll break the camel's back, but it's an idea. So it's an idea. Richard Cannon says, Tom, have you ever thought of switching the format for tactical breakdowns to make the content more fluid? Interested to know what you mean, Richard. Please let me know. It's obviously I'm limited by my technology and my editorial skills. So that's where, obviously, with being a teacher, time is so tight. It's very hard to try and learn new skills. Summer holidays or Easter holidays maybe can sit down and get to grips with some more stuff. Kamal says, Tom, which one of the academy products do you think will have the biggest impact next season? Really, really good question. Balogun seems like a really, really big shout. It's funny because we talk about academy prodigies and products, but most of them are in the first team now. We look at Willock, you look at Nelson, you look at Saka. Martinelli, whilst he wasn't an academy product, is very, very young. Guendouzi, the same sort of thing as Martinelli. We are bringing through a lot of young players, and it's great to see. So Balogun, I think, is up there with a really, really good opportunity to see what he might do. Smith Rowe coming back on loan after being at Huddersfield. Interesting to see how he fares in these last 6 months after leaving in January. So yeah. Wilson says, how many players do Arsenal need to sign in the summer? Let's be honest. We need to sign a centre-back. We need to sign a goalkeeper. I know that sounds weird, but I think that Martinez's time is done. Sell him, bring someone else in, push Leno. I think we need to sign a striker because I can imagine Aubameyang is going to leave. And I think we need to sign a midfielder, possibly 2. So really, really big summer ahead of us. Really, really interesting to see what happens. Naresh says, I'm happy we have spent wisely this window. I agree with you, mate. Finally, just to round things off, in the chat box, give me a score out of 10. How would you rate this window? Try be realistic. I know that we would have all loved to see Lionel Messi walk through those doors, but we have to be realistic about what we could do. But considering our financial restraints, considering what we needed to do, considering what your expectations might have been at the start of the window to actually what happened, out of 10, what would you give this transfer window? Let's see what you think. And let's have some explanations too, if you can get them. Omar, quite negatives, thinks 3. Gary Hardy says 6. Nico, 7. Krish, KR7 says 6. Zorro says 5. There's a lot of negativity. Rashid says 7. Kuyuza says 5. Says 6. The Saint says 6. Joseph Maseko says 1 out of 10. Not effective. He is angry, very angry. Jamal Simple says 6. Wilson says 6. Andre Miller says 8. Fair play. Andre is very impressed. Rashid says 5. Ryan says 8. Mixed. This is so mixed. This is really interesting. Avinash says 6. Tony Mills says 6. Cricketball says 6. 7. Ozil is still here from fake name. You sword. Dude says 7 because we got what we needed. Jack Perry says 2 defenders, sensible transfers, 9 out of 10. Thank you. And Jack is one of our members. Again, become a member. Help support the channel. Who are we rating, says official? We're saying how the window was official. Let me know what you think. Brian Ruff says 6. Martino says 7. Richard says 7. Dustin Roberts says rentals for the Europa push. 8, yes, I think that is a good point. I think we've signed these for the Europa League and obviously the rotation. Glenn Cook says 8. What brought balance to an unbalanced squad? And out of 10, how happy are you that England has a winter break? Arsenal will not be playing and possibly off to Dubai if the coronavirus hasn't got there yet. Out of 10, what would you rate the fact that the Premier League now has a winter break? If it was me, I'd give it a 1 because it means I've got a boring weekend without Arsenal to talk about. But in terms of fitness, I mean, Kenny Ken and me disagree with this all the time. He thinks we should have a winter break. I don't think we should have one whatsoever. That's just me. John Abraham says 9. He's happy with it. Omar says 8. In terms of thinking about a winter break, I'm really, really not happy with it. 2 for winter break, says Krish. Martino says 1. Owen says minus 19,000. That's pretty much nearly where I'm at. I'm a bit lower than that, I think. Omar says 8. Zoro says 8. Abdullah says 3. Official says 3 out of 10. But if we don't spend heavy and well in the summer, then it becomes a 1 out of 10. That's in regards to how happy he is with our summer window. 2 says Mohammed. Rashid says 0. Again, that's pretty much where I stand on this. This has been a bit of a long video, isn't it? Half an hour of me talking to I was about to say to myself, but it sounds like when you're sitting in a room and you're just chatting and all I've got for reference is you guys in the chat, it sometimes feels like that. In fact, I get very conscious sometimes, especially if the missus is in the other room, which is literally through that wall there. You get very conscious. And I remember there was a video a couple of weeks back where someone said, Tom, you seem so quiet. Why are you so miserable? And that wasn't the reason I was miserable. It's that I was so conscious that I could be heard because these walls are so thin that I could be heard from pretty much wherever I was talking. And probably next door can hear me chatting right now and wondering why am I not subscribed to this channel? He sounds amazing. And if you want to sign up for this channel, please hit that subscribe button. Please like the video if you've enjoyed it and liked all of the videos that we've done over the summer so far. If you're tuning in late and you want to get that really, really nice, it's not nice, but juicy Auba transfer news, make sure you scroll back and watch the start of the video. Please share the podcast and the channel around. Tell your mates about it. Tell them to go watch the videos. Maybe they've been wondering what Cedric Suarez is like. Maybe they've been wondering who the hell is this Pablo Marie guy. If they have, please make sure you let them know. Please spread it around. Pass the pod, as Peter Crouch would say. If you've been listening to that, I listen to way too many podcasts, let's be honest. I will see you again very, very soon. Thank you ever so much. Members, don't worry. You will be getting your exclusive content very, very soon, and you'll be hearing very much more about that. Articles come out as well from me outside the channel. I'm waffling now. I just like talking to you guys, to be honest. I can't stop now. I've started. But I'll see you again very, very soon. And as always, up the arse.